On the Royal Norfolk Showground, they were assembled, row upon row of them, all with the same heritage, but all individual, and all celebrating one of the most remarkable cars in the history of motoring, the Lotus 7. September 2007 marked the 50th anniversary of Colin Chapman's inspired creation that's caused pulses to race since its inception.
The Lotus 7 is an absolute prime example of a motorsport as it should be.
I think the 7 is known as a motorcycle on four wheels. It's very exhilarating.
Fun is the key thing. You walk amongst all the cars, and no one car is the same.
It's a racer for the road. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful driving experience.
It's a very individual car, and it suits people who are a little bit individual rather than just buying a routine car.
I see 330 race drivers queuing up at 7 o'clock in the morning looking to register, and that they can't wait to get out on the circuit. I take a great deal of pride out of that, and I'm a Cheshire cat today.
The idea for the 7, which I made from my Mark 9 Lotus with Mark 6 configuration of bodywork, was at the end of 1956.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the Lotus 7 from Colin Chapman until the end of 57. My FPV carried forward. Colin took that and moved it forward to the commercially viable Lotus 7 that came out in late 57. But it's all history now, and it was all very good fun and done in good spirit.
Before long, the premises in Cheshunt were proving inadequate, and Colin Chapman decided to move in 1961 to Norfolk and a greenfield site at Hethel.
We're moving our manufacturing plant up into Norfolk to a location just south of Norwich, and of course we're all very excited about this.
What's your reason for this particular area? Why the choice of Hethel?
Well, I think Norwich is a very nice area. East Anglia, I've always been very keen on East Anglia. I spent some time here just after the war, and they were very keen to have us. They welcomed us there, and we had the facilities we needed. We wanted room for expansion. We wanted room to have our own private test circuit, and the facilities of an old aerodrome suited us very much indeed.
Do you imagine you'll be bringing all your old staff here, or will you be recruiting local labour as well?
Well, I don't know. I should think it would be about 50-50. A lot of people, of course, are keen to get out of London nowadays, and we shall bring some of those with us. But we are very keen to try to get as many local people to join us as we can.
Chapman's priority at Hethel was the innovative but troublesome Elite, while the 7 provided cash flow to keep the company healthy. The first of many developments gave birth to the Series 2.
Oh, the chassis was different, and the quite a number of differences. They went to wider wheels and tyres, and of course they followed on with a different engine depending what was available at the time. Not a lot of difference, but certainly dimensionally there was a lot of difference. And this is probably the ultimate one, the Series 2, which got the 1500 Cosworth engine in it, which is probably a bit of an icon, really. And at that time, I mean, they made the transition from Cheshunt to Hethel, and back in the Cheshunt days, so the books tell us, that was really their major source of income. But by the time they'd gone to Hethel, they were doing lots more interesting things. I mean, they were making the Elan, they were making the Europa, and they were involved in just about every form of single-seater motor racing, from Formula 1, 2, 3, Formula Ford, Formula Atlantic, and so on.
And the people that are buying these cars off you, do they all have them in yellow and green? Because most of them seem to be that are here from this era.
Well, that's the popular colour, because those are the Lotus racing colours.
Yeah.
It was natural that the road cars should reflect the successful race cars, and Edward Lewis knew that the 7 could also function as both.
Well, let's put it this way. My idea, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's my idea. I wanted a car that I could do racing in. I could do a bit of building if I wanted to. I could change the sparking plugs without having to get 3 mechanics to do it. And I had a very limited budget and a limited amount of money that I was prepared to spend on racing or motorsport in general. So it suited me. And apparently it suited a hell of a lot of other people. who don't want to go to the expense of 5 mechanics, a transporter, and all the gubbins that's going with it today in the top end. We were just amateurs enjoying it.
People were buying them as road cars or race cars, or to do a bit of both with?
Yeah, race cars in the sense of, you know, club racing.
Yeah.
Not the out-and-out racing. And so once they got to this, for whatever good reason, they decided to generally lose a bit of interest in, if I can put it that way, and they concentrate on their other activities, which were far more rewarding, and they generally thought that the demand was lapsing and their enthusiasm was certainly lapsing. But they reappointed a chap called David Lazenby to run Lotus Components, which produced all of the racing cars bar Formula One. And we had a chat, and he decided, well, he could continue making the Series 2. A clear understanding, he'd build them and I sold them. And we just shook hands on that, and that was the deal.
The deal meant that Graham Nairn effectively took over all the sales and marketing of the 7 from his base in Caterham on the Hill in Surrey. The old premises have long been replaced, but the flats and workshops behind recall the site's significance.
And that took us right the way through to '68 with the Series 3. Where by that time the demand was increasing. We did a fair old job of publicity, I think. We did a series called The Prisoner, and Patrick McGowan, who was the lead actor and major writer of the whole series, walked into the factory looking to use a car. I think Lotus were trying to talk him into a Lotus Elite, and he saw the old Lotus7 demonstrator sitting over in the yard and said, "I'll have that car." And that was used as the introduction to the series, prime time, 7 o'clock Sunday night. There was a Lotus7 coming straight to the cameras, and it was used in a couple of episodes as well. So that all helped move it up to a higher gear.
Graham Nairn had a minor role in the series, driving the emblematic car, but was shrewd enough to request publicity photographs with McGowan by way of payment. The car was also proving popular on the track. Despite the continued success of the 7 in Graham's hands, Clive Chapman is convinced his father did the right thing in selling.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, because Dad must have felt that the company had to progress. He wanted to progress with everything. He was always trying to develop, and he really wanted to move on to the higher level of the car market in terms of luxury and speed and performance, and that took him into a different marketplace. So yeah, it would have been nice to carried on making the 7. It would have been nice to have carried on making the original Elan, particularly when you see the MX-5 driving around. You think, well, hang on, that's an Elan. But Dad, you know, that was his nature, was to press on. He was never interested in doing the same old thing. But that doesn't mean that other people can't enjoy the original idea that he had. And it's nice that they do.
There was always demand, good demand, second hand, for the Series 2, Series 3, Series 1 and so on. And we let it be known that we got enough spares to make a limited number of Series 3s. And the phone never stopped ringing. The phone never stopped ringing.
Now listen, I should get shot if I don't ask the question. You don't have to answer it. But can you remember how much you paid for all the rights and all the bits and pieces from Lotus?
Well, vaguely, but it was,
yeah, okay.
Well, it was quite complicated. Well, it wasn't complicated, pretty straightforward. In as much as, yes, I paid money, and I also agreed to pay, on the 7 anyway, a royalty of something so much per car up to a certain number. So it was spread out. I mean, I didn't have a big lump sum I could just dump on the table. They could quite see it was a deal where they got some money, and it was a deal that was going to be fulfilled, so they would get the money over time. And that's the way it worked. And of course I was able to say, well, if you really want to get your money fairly quickly on royalties, let me go back to Series 3. So they said, well, why not? That didn't bother them. Yeah. And that's how it progressed.
How many were built?
Well, in my time, we built over 11,000.
And Lotus did 2 and a bit thousand?
2,300, something like that, yes.
They call it small volume, don't they? So they call it small volume, but 13,000, 14,000 cars.
Well, we had it every year by year, and doing, I think we probably used 800 in a phenomenal year and 500 in most years. So as the years go by, you tot up the numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's still running.
If the road car was selling well, there were problems on the track where the competition was getting restless.
Deep down, they didn't like us. They didn't like it because they wanted to tempt in Ferraris and more exotic cars, which they didn't want because we would have... The 7's a quick car, obviously. Take it on a tight clubman circuit, it'll win. Put it on a long circuit, it's up against aerodynamics, it's not going to win.
By the new millennium, the Nern family was ready to pass on the company, with its sales office now at the bottom of the hill in Caterham, and the factory that had moved to Dartford just before the October hurricane destroyed the old workshop. A willing buyer was found in a consortium led by Lotus engineer Ansar Ali.
I conducted the management buy-in in January 2005, so 2.5 years, although it feels like 2.5 days. It's been 2.5 tough years, inevitably, when you get a transition from a family-run business to a private equity-run business. Inevitably, things are different, and we've had obviously some other what I would call left hookers with regards to Rover and the collapse of Rover. But we've dealt with all those issues that have come our way, and now we go from strength to strength. And this weekend at Donington is, I think, a fantastic reflection of not only 50 years of the past, but more importantly, the steady footing that we're now on for the future.
Caterham's unusual in being a one-product company with a design essentially the same as the original from 50 years ago, something that might be seen as a disadvantage.
The cars might look the same, but they all have their own individual personalities, and in many ways that's what embodies our customer base as well. It's a very personal statement, the Caterham 7. And the work that we're doing from an engineering perspective is looking forward to how do we take what is very much an iconic design, take it forward, take it in terms of evolutionary steps rather than revolutionary steps, to make sure that we're around for another 50 years.
What's the biggest disadvantage of having to hang on to effectively the old shape?
Inevitably, people do see it as sort of an old, antiquated shape, and it's only until they get into the car do they realise just what the real essence of the car and the philosophy is that embodies what Colin Chapman did 50 years ago.
Can you really put any more power through those rear wheels?
Most certainly. I think the new chassis which is the CSR, which we launched just over 2 years ago, which I think is a fantastic design of independent rear suspension and inboard front suspension, F1 type suspension. Gives such a compliant ride and in many ways can take more power. And the X330 concept car that we have today, which has 330 brake horse, just shows, and when people will get to drive it in terms of sort of development drives, will show how well that chassis can take more power.
How do you stand with regard to the continued legality of the car in terms of safety and all that sort of thing?
It's a fine line between having the engineering resource to try and stay up to date with regards particularly emissions. The new Ford Sigma range of engines that we've launched for UK SVA versions, we've also in parallel done a Euro 4 emission compliant Sigma engine for our European markets. Inevitably, I can't sort of influence legislation too far. If they start to insist of airbags and side impact bars and things like that, inevitably it will affect the design and the look and feel of the car. But I'm confident that won't affect us, certainly for the next 10 to 15 years.
I think in this day and age, more and more people have it as a fun car, so it's a second, third, maybe even fourth car. I think in the early years, yes, a lot of people use it as their only car, but times change. People have become wealthier, and more people have got garages to put toys in, and obviously the Caterham's right up on that list.
And in terms of specification, are you more concerned about it being good on the track or good on the road?
We offer something for everyone. Some customers will come along and say, I want a car for Sunday afternoons to go down to the seaside to go touring in it, and we can offer a specification for that. Other customers will come to us and say, I want the most outrageous car you can produce, and we can do that, and everything in between. So, there really is something for everyone.
If the tide of regulation can be resisted, the 7 is likely to continue as a unique road car for many decades. And even if that outlet were to find itself under threat, it's hard to believe that track versions wouldn't be thrilling driver and spectator alike for at least another 50 years. The 7 makes its claim to motoring immortality.